All right, with that, we are coming to the first panel of the day. First up, we are talking about the most basic yet most crucial subject, which is what make great boards great. So our facilitator for this panel is Professor R.S.S. Mani, who's co-founder and vice president, ITIM Group of Institutions. May I please have him on stage, sir? Joining him, Sushri Kamala K. Chief, Regulatory Officer, BSc, Ananya Saikia, Deputy Director, Ministry of Corporate Affairs at Government of India, and C.A. Snehal Shah from Snehal and Associates, Chartered Accountants.
Namaskar, everybody. Good morning again. We are on amber signal, just waiting for green to begin. So bear with us for another 30 seconds. Mic हाथ में आए तो छोड़ना नहीं. Dangerous thing to say to a professor. Welcome everybody to the first panel discussion of the day today. We have a very distinguished panel here with me, and I'm sure most of us who come to events like this in today's world of Google have done enough research about us, so we decided to kind of do away with the formal introduction. You can still continue to do that when you have your hand phones active at any given point in time. What we propose to do in this panel, what makes great boards great? And if you thought it was a typing mistake, it was not. We actually wanted to convey the message that every board thinks that they are great. But then what makes them great? Very often we read lines like, some people are born great, some become great, some have greatness thrust upon them. The query is, what happens when you have a group of people sitting on the board of a company? When they claim they are great, what makes them great is what we're trying to discuss today in this panel this morning. I'm sure all of us agree we had a rocking start to this entire conclave with some amazing ideas that came in. But trust me, people who are sitting here with us on the panel have several years of experience of actually practicing a lot of aspects which was discussed in the first session. So without much ado, since I was asked to start, I'd like to share 3 points which I was able to research based on various publications, various aspects of making a board great, predominantly as one would have seen in different companies, in different corporations and industry associations. So what makes great boards great? So this sounds like a question 1 in the examination, and the answer to that 1 is great boards become great if you have board members who see the membership on a board as a responsibility, not as a recognition. And if you agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, what we are trying to often do is we love to put it somewhere in our visiting cards, which I know are becoming a little outdated, but somewhere or the other in the LinkedIn profile and anywhere else that we are sitting on the board of some companies as an independent director. But is that a status symbol? Is that a recognition of the fact that you've served in industry for 40 years? Is it a post-retirement parking place so that it sounds a little nice, pompous? You can still go back, particularly the men, and tell your wives that, look, I'm not retired, I am still on the board of this company. Of course, all of us know, and I can endorse it with so many women sitting out here, I think biggest challenge of retirement for men is the women are worried how to manage the men 8 hours a day when they would have otherwise been away for 12 to 14 hours a day. I know, pandemic notwithstanding. So jokes apart, first point, boards should have members who treat their membership on the board as a responsibility, not a recognition. This is one. Second, boards which over a period of time have been great, remained great, have done so, particularly in today's environment where they are extremely conscious about the UN's SDG. This was already referred to in the morning, but this has been something very, very crucial that people have discussed. Boards which are conscious about SDG and its implementation look at every activity that the organization takes up from the perspective of SDG, of course, ESG being one of the most important of the factors there. Third, again discussed, and I'm glad a lot of this happened because it looks like I'm doing a revision class now, DEI, and I think everyone knows about we are looking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are not buzzwords. You can't end up saying that we believe in diversity, inclusion, and not practice it while recruiting. One can't have situations where we are talking about a different set of promotion policies, quote unquote, for men and for women. These have to be shown in action right at the workplace. And a very interesting thing that I came across, which I thought I must share, and I feel extremely delighted to share this, though with a little selfish interest. I specialize in human resources. I've been from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, have a long innings since then. You can see it with all the gray hair on my beard. 40 years in the human resource profession. Research indicates that boards become great if they spend as much time discussing human resources as they discuss finance. And I think this was something very, very heartwarming. And if you really think about it deep down, ultimately, who's making the company successful? It's the men and the women. And the men and the women in the organization are not going to succeed unless they have sound relationships at the workplace. Those who are sitting on boards, if you just reflect yourself, not that you need to have a show of hands, how often do we discuss human resource issues? How often do we discuss human relations? Or is most of our time spent on just the balance sheet, the profit and loss, the cost of transport, warehousing? Are we looking at cutting costs? Is there austerity being practiced? Please ponder over this. I thought this was worth reflecting, and therefore it was part of what I wanted to roll out as some of my initial thoughts. Now, I'd like to request each one of our colleagues on the panel to give some of their own reflections basis their own experience, and after which we have a couple of questions which we would like to give it to them for a discussion. Some of you in the audience are welcome to pass across your questions to us, either through the app that you might be using, or you can pass it across to us through a sheet of paper. We'll be happy to take some questions at the end. With that note, may I request Ananya to please share some of her perspectives on the theme, what makes great boards great?
Thank you, Professor Mani. A very good morning to all of you. Professor Mani has emphasized the factor of why do we need to have a diverse board, and the conversation will go on in the entire day in different panels and by the chief guest as well. But I would like to emphasize why this is right now is the right time to have this conversation and take it forward. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji has already given an ahvan to the entire nation for the Amrit Kal that is starting now. So we are planning to, whatever we work now is going to be the future for the next millennium. That is, we are working for them. And a very futuristic, very inclusive vision for the nation as well. So the leadership of the nation has decided the path for the nation. So similarly, the corporate world, India Inc. also needs to decide what is important for them for the next 25 years in this Amrit Kal, so that we can achieve what our leadership is wanting from us. The second very important thing from a regulator side, that because I come from that side, I would like to say that all the companies, the corporate sector, of course, because of the global scenario as well, uh, everything in a company, the composition of the board, I would say, the commercial transactions that you're having, the related party transactions, everything is under regulatory scanner. The MCA and the SEBI together has taken many regulatory initiatives so that we can ensure that there is diversity, we can ensure that the board is functioning well, and of course there is no fraud. At FATF, the Financial Action Taken Force is going to have the India evaluation in the next year. That is very important. 2023-24 is why it's important is since the notification of Companies Act in 2013, the independent directors were supposed to, they can be appointed for a period of a term of 5 years maximum. And maximum an independent director can be appointed is for 2 terms. So 10 years are going to end next year, 23-24. That's the end of the independent directors who have been probably, continued working in one company. So the next year, that's the inflection point that we are looking forward to, where the companies will be looking outside to the talent pool that we have right now to appoint new independent directors. So, so that's why it is such a important time that we are going to have this conversation. And I would say after the whole nation and the whole world has come out of the VUCA world, the volatile, uncertain world that we have come out of after the global pandemic, we all have seen, it is important that company embrace the art of corporate endurance so that they persist and continue to have the competitive advantage across difficult times. But along with the corporate endurance, what is important for the companies to embrace right now is corporate resilience, so that there's a harmony between that. And if there is anything adverse that comes, so the companies know when to step back, pivot and take a bounce back in action. So that's why it's, I say that when we are having this conversation of what makes a great board great is, this is when you embrace this corporate endurance, corporate resilience, because this is not a time to just remain compliant, just be the checkbox company, just follow what the MCA is saying, the SEBI is saying. This is the time, and this is not a time for you all to become a, as I say, a token director or a trophy director. So just, you have to speak up and shine in the board meetings, in the table out there. So I wish you all the best for the future, and hope to have a wonderful discussion in this panel as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mani.
Thank you. May I request Nehal Shah to please share some of his perspectives.
What makes a great board great? No board is ordinary until it is proved great. We have to make a difference by implementing the best practices in terms of how to conduct the board meetings at periodic intervals, how board members end up meeting from time to time, and work out a strategy in such a manner that the overall objective of the company is ultimately fulfilled. There could be many circumstances where you might face a difficulty in terms of some bad news as well as some good news on the other side. But the real courage is to face them at the right time. Be transparent to the entire stakeholders of yours who ultimately end up being your partners, and apprise them with each and every information in a very lucid and a transparent manner. There are times where the company may face losses. Does not matter at all. There has to be justification for losses, and this is how one board has to conduct itself, with absolute principles of ethics and code of conduct. That is what matters as far as running of boards are concerned. When it comes to, so in other words, boards play a very, very important role in implementing the best practices either at the board level, and the CEO per se ends up conducting the meetings in such a manner that each and every aspect is conveyed in a perfect and a transparent manner. Thank you.
Thank you. May I request Kamala Madam to share some of her perspectives?
Good afternoon and good morning to everyone. It's very heartening to see so many women aspirants for directorship. So I wish each one of you good luck on your journey to becoming directors. And I also congratulate Divya ma'am for organizing this program. The need of the hour is to train and upskill more and more women to take up this enhanced responsibility. Coming to the topic, what makes a great board great? First, I wanted to decode what great means. And long ago, I attended a training program on personality development where one of the professors excellently told me what great is. Great means thinking, feeling, doing, and being. If all are aligned, your outcome is great. So now what makes a board great? Same elements, I would say, that if board can collectively think for a common purpose, then it makes the board great. Collective thinking does not mean everybody says yes, yes, and one person does the thinking. That's not the intention. Board definitely has diverse set of people sitting on the board. They bring different skill sets. Though they come from different dimensions, keeping the purpose in mind, they are able to apply all dimensions to a decision-making process and come to a conclusion based on what is good for the prospect of a company, then that is great thinking on board's part. So strategic thinking and also execution thinking, everything becomes important at a board level. And just now we heard, Yogita Jadhav talking about board diversity and all. Real good boards don't wait for regulator to be mandating that I should have diversity. And diversity does not mean only gender diversity. It also means cultural, it also means geographical, it also means age related. So diversity itself is a diverse topic. So collective thinking for a common purpose is one aspect of it. We conduct board meetings once in a quarter, we come and contribute once in a quarter. Is it end of all so far as role of a director is concerned? If I have strong feeling for the company on whose board I am sitting, I will be thinking of the company round the clock. I won't be thinking only when I sit in the board meeting. Suddenly, all of a sudden, I discover my company is hitting headline for some reason. Do I really pick up, own up, and try to figure out what is happening? I, as an independent director, engage with external world in various capacities. Have I got my ears to the ground? Do I keep registering and acknowledging what the world is thinking about our company? So the feeling factor also becomes equally important. Then doing, that is whatever I capture, am I able to effectively contribute as a board member in the decision-making process? Sometimes in a board, we have all heard, sometimes you have to lead in the front and sometimes you have to let the company perform. So when to occupy what position, when to be silent, when to express. If there are critical decisions that are happening, if I don't have anything to contribute, it is okay to be silent. But there may be areas where you feel something is not going good. Then keeping quiet is strictly no. So am I able to contextually contribute through my silence or through my expression or through influencing the decision making is also an important portion of making board great. And effective boards allow space for people to express. They're not intolerant to questions being asked. At the same time, they don't go on allowing questions to be endlessly asked, even though there is no substance. So the real trick for an effective board is how to balance between various opinions and viewpoints that come in and then conclude on what is in the best interest of the organization. After all the three components, being the company, wherever you walk, your talk, wherever you engage, what you talk about the company also becomes very important. So these four principles which I learned as a personality development, I think equally applies to the effectiveness of the board. And also, at BSc, we have been reflecting these days what makes companies sustain over a long period of time. That is in the context of our company getting into 150th year in the next year. So we are thinking, and when we studied the global statistics, some 13 companies out of Fortune 500 companies have continued beyond 150 years, which means that companies, if they have to sustain on a long-term basis, products come, products go, people come, people go. Are there core values that have been defined from the top? And is the culture flowing down till the last mile? Does board have a role in setting tone for the culture in the organization? Obviously, the answer is yes. So, overall, if I have to say, great boards think of long-term success of the organization. They always discourage short-term view for short-term goalposts, keeping the long-term in mind. And we've also found in one of the surveys, well-governed companies have longer life cycle compared to companies which are not governed so well. What is the importance that the board attaches to governance? What is the importance that the board attaches to various stakeholders, and how open is the board itself in upskilling itself, and also in the ever evolving, ever growing, ever dynamic environment, even acknowledging that we are not adequately geared to handle something new coming up, identify and augmenting the skill set required in the board also is an important dimension. I think like life cycle of a human being, the companies have a longer life cycle, and boards which are in charge of the management of the company are to be ever agile, constantly focused on the purpose, constantly focused on the principles, then everything else will follow automatically, is my few words. Thank you all so much.
So that was the first set of thoughts which came in from this distinguished panel, looking at areas like governance, the importance of resilience, the continuous search and pursuit of excellence, the need in current scenario to be agile, and of course this wonderful thought process that are we as board members seeing ourselves as trustees of the organization? Are we looking at just the board meetings, or are we looking at how we can make this board great, make it more effective? Just in lighter vein, some of us who've been in boards for many years, the biggest charm in board meetings initially was determined by the venue and the menu. I'm sorry, things have changed, so don't make that as an excitement factor anymore, because I told you somewhere already, our responsibility is huge on the board because the governance as mandated also holds us responsible for anything that happens in the organization. So it's a huge trust which we mentioned. I'd like to just move back to the panel and ask them to reflect a little on, we spoke about effectiveness, and I think in any corporate world, effectiveness is often evaluated through some performance metrics, some quantifiable, visible parameters. Would all of us please share some perspectives? Would you like to begin, Snehal?
As far as evaluation goes, the duty of the board members basically must evaluate performance not only on a periodic quarterly basis, but even on a weekly basis for that matter. Ultimately, as the turnover of the company increases, the expenses also increase. And after having invested a lot of money into tangibles and intangibles overall, facing difficulties at times of working capital, one has to plan in such a manner that one comes up with a collective decision based on collective wisdom of the entire board in terms of taking the decision further. To my mind, each and every aspect of the business needs to be discussed in accordance with the internal as well as the external environment per se, looking into competitors also, where they are also going to step in fast at the same time. So there is a lot of responsibility which is involved at the board level, whereby every particular member of the board has to consider as if it is his own company and ultimately his own funds are getting involved. He may be acting in a very fiduciary capacity, but the ultimate responsibility is skyrocketing. Ultimately what matters basically is increase in share value, and for that matter whatever corrective action needs to be taken timely as well as in terms of growth, so that the overall market capitalization of the company really, which impresses every stakeholder and the shareholder, is the ultimate objective. In the ultimate analysis, what matters is absolute transparency, as I keep repeating all the time, creating systems in place, because apart from the company in terms of giving the results from the business is concerned, one has to see even compliance issues in terms of various aspects, SEBI regulations, ROC compliances, and various other aspects. So to my mind, one has to be very, very vigilant in his approach for all times to come after, and collective wisdom. At times it does happen in board meetings that there is just one or two people dominating the board. That is something, a culture which one has to really put a stop to as an independent director. As an independent director, because that his role becomes more independent in such a manner that he ensures that there is absolute decorum maintained rather than decision making lying only at one or two promoters level as such. So to my mind, very, very, that becomes more vital.
Right? Would you like to share some more thoughts on this?
Effectiveness of board and evaluation of the board. I just want to analytically speak. If there is a cricket match that goes on and a team wins, okay, an individual star performer is there versus a team performance is there. An individual scores a century, but the team loses the match. Would we call it success, failure? How, what lens would we apply for success or failure? To me, the biggest asset test for performance of a director is directly connected to performance of the corporate entity itself. And we all know, having seen so many listed companies very closely, when we say performance of a company, we are all glued to the financial numbers. Does a good or a great company look at only financial performance? The answer is no. And we had all this balanced scorecard approach where financial metrics, non-financial metrics, everything had to be weaved in to arrive at the greatness of the company. But somehow, because companies are also under pressure to publish quarter-on-quarter result, overemphasis is there on financial numbers. And because regulator is mandating, overemphasis is also there on line item tick box compliance reporting to the board, which also takes away a lot of bandwidth of the boards. Actually speaking, operation successful, patient dead is not the way to measure the performance of a company. Company has to do well, and when company does well, which director contributed how much to that, which officials contributed how much to that. The measurement of contribution itself is an art, pseudo art I would say, and mostly we are all in the current context number driven. I think time has come for India. Now that India is becoming a global hub, it is also time for us to build long-lasting companies. And if we have to walk that path, the way we are incentivizing, the way we are measuring performance certainly needs to undergo a change. And we have all been successful, in incentivizing solo basis. We have created silos within most of the corporate entities. How to collaborate, how to encourage positive aspects of success and That is not to suggest that inefficient people should not be dealt with. That is also part of the game. But can we start rewarding collaborations in different way than what we do currently? Can we shift away from number-driven evaluation to purpose-driven evaluation? How many lives in society we have touched? Have we impact? And also, I know I just wanted to respond to Mr. Snehal. He said, of course, share price is important. In my mind, share price is a consequence of all our actions. And can we be focused on rightful actions on a long-term basis, not be too worried by what is happening on the share price? If governance and company performance is good, shareholders know how to reward the company, and excessive focus on these numericals should go away. Today, the situation has gone so much that companies are compelled to show better performance. It is okay once in a while not to perform so well. If you talk about health, once in a way it's okay to have a headache. We are all, after all, human beings. Similarly, once in a way, if the performance dips a bit, it's okay, but we are all constrained. We want to say last 35 quarters we have seen growth of X%. I think they are far from truth. The more we encourage transparency, the more investors also become responsible and acknowledge once in a way drop in income is fine. Then we can create better organization is what I would appreciate.
Great, some very great thoughts, and I was just reminded of what we always end up doing, and that is the jugaad when it comes to presenting what we wish to show to our shareholders and what you may. Over to you, Ananya.
Yes. So when we talk about board evaluation or any evaluation, what does the student ask? Syllabus kya hai? Right? So if there's a test going to happen, kis pe test hoga? Is it clear? Whether the board is clear on the factors on which the evaluation is going to happen. Okay. So this is where when we talk about the concept of shared vision, mission for the company, and communicating that vision throughout the company, throughout your value chain, that becomes important. So the board, before you talk about evaluation, it has to be very clear what the board wants to evaluate, on what parameters they want to evaluate, what they want to achieve finally, what is the final goal. So for that, as ma'am has explained, it has to be a mixture of quantitative and qualitative aspects. The KPIs have to be qualitative and quantitative as well. Yes, it is a statutory requirement that you need to have an evaluation. Companies Act direct you, mandate you that in the board report you have to mention that on what parameters, how the board was evaluated, what were the results. So it is important, but what is more important is for you to have a clear idea in your mind that what exactly you are going to evaluate. That's it for now.
Can I also ask the panel to reflect on what are some of the best practices or pillars that you have come across in your experience, which really makes great boards great? You could give some very specific examples, obviously without naming the companies in the interest of privacy, but please go ahead. Anyone can take
Trade practices, as far as CSR goes, I have seen basically when it comes to CSR, the end use of funds becomes extremely important. So I think the CSR committee plays a very, very important role in any board meetings as such. The CSR committee comprising of these independent director, one of them is always there. And the government has come up that, as ma'am rightly mentioned, bottom line is important, but at the same time, 2% of the profits going allocated to a CSR activity is something which needs to be monitored as a board member very, very acutely, to my mind. That is one aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So CSR as a focus area.
CSR.
Your thoughts, ma'am?
Basically, live wire example I just want to quote. There was a particular company, I don't want to name as you said. They were hitting a roadblock. They were seeing dead end that they could visualize they would become extinct. At that juncture, board members got together. They engaged with all the primary stakeholders. They organized brainstorming sessions and arrived at what could be potential solution. And that solution got implemented, and it was a very complex project which included influencing regulator to change their mindset, etc., etc. And the outcome was that the solution that got implemented is working even today, even after 20 years of its existence, which helped the whole community survive and contribute to their existence. So I think the real key takeaways from that experience of mine, I was also part of that board. Key takeaway from that experience was that, firstly, when a problem occurs, do we have the magnanimity to accept that there is a problem? Half the problem is solved when you acknowledge a problem. Then can you look at alternatives available to you, not restricting to the select set of people, but go to a larger base and figure out innovative ways of your meaningful existence, then solutions would always be there. Every problem has a solution. It is just that we have not yet discovered. So if we are able to take a rightful approach to problem solving, then boards can do great work and contribute to the continuity of the organization.
Sure, I think that's a very important point to note that very often boards spend a lot of time trying to identify problems. And here what we are saying is, can we also contribute towards finding the solution? As we often ask our teammates, are you part of the problem? Are you part of the solution? I think that approach is what she mentioned, which was something very, very significant to board effectiveness too. Your take?
My take is, I would say, a little different from what Shasa said. It's, of course, CSR is a very important topic. And now, after conclusion of COP28, ESG conversations going across the world, it is important. But in a machine, if all the limbs, all the parts are not working properly, then the whole machine will not perform. So I would not say only CSR committee is important. NRC is important. Nomination Remuneration Committee is important. Audit committee is important. Why not? So I would say the board will function properly only when all the committees or everybody is performing what they have to do. So if I would bring back one example from when we conduct investigation, one question that I also ask, because that's where the company's fault. We have to ask a question saying, who was the key decision maker in the board? Why should I have to ask that question? There, in a board, why should be a key decision maker? That means the whole board is not functioning properly. So, in a effective board, in a board which is a perfect board, a great board, all the decisions will be unanimous. All the committees will do their research, come back with their research, present it in front of the board. And then the board will take a decision which is, there is no dissent. Everybody is agreeing to that. They're having a, conversation, fruitful conversation. They're listening to everybody and creating a space that where everybody can express themselves and not fearing that their voice will be, shut down. So that's when the boards shine, and that's when the boards become great.
Right, that's a wonderful thought process again. Before I check with Mugdha if there are any questions from the audience, which she'll let us know, I just have one question to ask the panel. As all of us have already realized and applauded the efforts of Divya, Neha, and the whole team of the wonderful work that Mentor My Board is doing, along with the fact that there are so many aspiring director candidates sitting out here. No, this is not a recruitment process, don't worry. All I'm trying to ask is, what would you distinguished panelists believe MMB can do more so that they can add value to this entire approach that they've taken to not only build a community of skilled, competent directors who could be available not only to the larger corporations, but organizations of all sizes. So what would be some of your advice to them to focus on certain areas so that they could contribute more meaningfully, considering all the wonderful work that they do? Maybe begin with you.
Yes. Again, bringing back from my work of corporate investigations, I, as a woman, feel very bad when we summon somebody or we question all the directors. Directors for us are equal in front of us. When the male director comes and says that the woman director is just my wife, my daughter, my mother or somebody, उसका statement लेने का जरूरत नहीं है, उसका statement मेरा statement ही है. So that is ridiculous. I say you cannot do that. The law also does not permit it. I am not going to take her statement on oath based on your statement. That is just not going to happen. So, and when those ladies come to me, of course they have to come, but when they come, I make them realize that, see, being in the board and how, of course, some of them are not so literate also, but whoever is literate. And then they realize when they read the sections, they read the duties of the director, the responsibilities of the director. So for them, it took some time because they were under influence. So this is where Mentor, my board, MMB comes into. They have given a platform to women directors to, we have educationally qualified ladies in front of us, but for you to understand the responsibilities, the duties, and when, as Yogita ma'am has also said, once you are there at the post, what you are supposed to do, how you are supposed to perform, how you are supposed to make your voice heard, and not undermine your skills, your experience, your expertise, and not let anybody, shut you. So, and if you have a dissent, make it them record in the minutes. So those are the things I would say, the confidence that the women directors are supposed to have now. This is where Mentor My Board has come in, and I have seen when I met people here, when I met the participants here, I felt very nice. So from the past participants of your programs, I guess. So I guess if you keep doing this work, very good. It's
Thank
a
you.
bright future for the corporate world. Thanks.
Great. Ma'am?
Actually, in today's context, there is a huge shortage of people who can be on the boards. The skill set gap arises out of multiple factors. One is each sector in our economy is moving at a fast pace. No single person can claim to be expert in all sectors. Can Mentor My Board identify different sectors and bring in some base level domain understanding, and based on the mapping of people who are aspiring to be directors, sectorally train people. For example, what I mean, financial services sectors needs are different, IT sectors needs are different, manufacturing sectors needs are different. So can we create that pool at a sector level is one thing that you can think about. Second thing, irrespective of the sector, there are several governance related transformations that are hitting on a daily basis in the industry. So all these changes, are there meaningful ways of everything cannot be done through physical training. Can you digitize some of the changes in an easily comprehensible fashion, and on an ongoing basis can you circulate to the aspirants whom you are training on an ongoing basis? And mentorship is not a one-time training exercise, it is a continuous training also. That is the need of the hour. Can you think of doing something on those lines? And third aspect is people who are already experienced, who are already on multiple boards, their need for training is slightly different from people who want to be coming for the first time or second time. Then for the beginners, can we identify core skill set required plus the dynamics of the board? See, I am very impressed by one movie, most of you would have seen, say 12 Angry Men or Ek Ruka Hua Faisla. The conviction with which one person who was strong on the purpose could persuade everybody else to make the right decision. So if we have to build that skill set in our aspirant directors, what will it take for us in terms of articulation, expression, and power to influence others? I think that is where soft skill training also would be an important area that my mentors could focus on.
Yes. Mentor My Board is doing a wonderful job. But what I would further recommend is basically if MMB could work out a campaign by reaching out to various companies as well, and basically reaching out and making and them their clients, in my opinion, I think there is everybody knows everything over here, but at the same time, we find that all the companies which are normally, although they are so-called listed companies in the listed space, we find it's still run like a promoter-driven company, the maximum shareholder-driven company. If MMB can come up with a campaign and reach out to these kind of companies, make them their clients, educate them, and of course the regulators are here to put a stick on them, and which is very very badly required in my opinion, because when we as a chartered accountant, when I see the related party transactions in particular, I really get a bit baffled at times. So I think there is a lot of education required, which MMB can really do a bit to that extent. And it has already been doing, as uh, run by two women. They are doing a wonderful job, I would say so. As a chartered accountant, I say invest in PPF to save taxes. Maintain high balance in PPF. I'm wondering about these two women. They maintain again high balance in PPF, maintaining balance between the real life PPF, balance between personal life, professional life, and family life, and reaching out to these companies is altogether not a joke. So I will.
Thank you so much. Over to Big Boss.
Thank you so much. In fact, because we have two regulators here, I have, one question, and that really bothers me. It's about women, I mean, especially us seen still today as tick box on the board, because, we want one woman. And yes, I understand the entry barrier is only till the time they're coming to the boards. Once they are in the boards, then they are directors, as you mentioned. Because we have upper cap on the sitting fees, what is being paid to directors is 1 lakh per meeting. But there is no minimum cap. Now I'll tell you the harsh reality. I keep getting inquiries from people that we want independent director and we are ready to pay them 40,000 rupees a year, right? Or 25,000 rupees a year. Now, because there is no minimum cap, and you are getting, I mean, एक आज आप अगर आप आपके ऑफिस में प्यून है, उसको भी आप मिनिमम 5 से 10,000 रुपया महीने का देते हो. So why not independent directors who are sitting on the boards of listed companies? Now, whether those are unlisted, the companies which are getting listed, or the SME listed companies, I think that is something my request, to on this platform to the regulators will be look at that, the sitting fees part, because when you are investing, I mean, the independent directors are investing their time, effort in the company, and if they are given that reputation and recognition, they will be able to contribute more and making more meaningful impact. So that is something which I wanted to, put forward. Then there is one question about the gender parity, but I would request whosoever has given this question, please speak to the panelist, of the stage, because we are running short of time. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for being here with us. Thank you, and for wonderful insights.